It's the boy Mirage, the assassin. I'm back. Salute. Real Friday the 13th shit. So we about to go ahead and get into some deeper mysteries today, dealing with the number 13, of course. And what we're going to do in this tape is look deeper into the planes of existence. Because a lot of us, when we hear the term the third dimension, the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension, the sixth dimension, or the seventh dimension, a lot of us tend to think that it's a local place. Almost like if I say I'm going to go to the store up the street, and how I could literally either walk or drive up the street, and it's an actual location of a store that I'm going to go to. So when we say I'm about to go to the fourth dimension or the fifth dimension, it's not a physical or local place you can go to like that. So in this tape, we'll get a little bit of a better understanding, because these different dimensions and these different planes or zones of existence that we want to experience, believe it or not, they are a lot closer than you think. And you don't have to really go anywhere physically like you may think you have to. A lot of these different planes exist on a more conscious level, because as I've said in the previous tape, a lot of us think that we are our physical bodies, and we don't really know that we're just a conscious being that's using these physical bodies as a vessel right now for experience primarily. So we're just going to get a greater understanding of that, of course. I'm going to read out of a book called Awaken the World Within by Hilton Hotima. And I'm going to read on a part that's called Plane a State. All right. So we'll go through this, and then some of the stuff that we come across, I'll, analyze a little bit deeper. But the point of this is just to realize that these different planes of existence, you already have a connection to them with your own conscience. All right. So it's a state of being ultimately. OK, we don't want to look at it like, we go into the Walmart and we literally go to a physical building. If you think that heaven is a place like that, if you think hell is a place like that, if you think the Garden of Eden is a place like that, if you think that any of these different mythological places, Amenta, if you think these are real physical places, then you may want to do a little dig a little bit deeper, all right, and get a better understanding, because that's not, what the case is, all right. So as usual, we're going to read and then analyze. As I said, we're coming out of the book called Awaken the World Within by Hilton Hotima, all right. So let's read about plane estate. Planes do not rise above one another. They are graded as to their respective degrees of vibration. There are planes of vibration and not planes of matter. Matter is the lowest degree of vibration. The various planes have not spatial distinction nor degree. They interpenetrate one another in the same point of space. A single point of space may have its manifestation of all the 7 planes of being. So as we see right here already, that these planes of existence are really different vibratory frequencies. All right. So keep that in mind. Think about different vibratory frequencies. Let's use the example of a dog whistle. Now, we all know that humans and dogs both have ears. But when you blow in a dog whistle, it's at a much lower frequency. And the dog can hear it, but a human can't hear it. But nevertheless, the sound is still in the third plane density. So when we mean by being able to tap into different frequencies or different planes of existence, this is a form of what we're talking about, because the dog can tap into multiple planes of existence or multiple planes of frequency. All right. Because not every human can hear a dog whistle. OK, it's a very, very faint, very, very light sound. But think about how a dog can hear you call its name, and how another human can hear you call the dog's name. But how you could blow the dog whistle and only the dog will hear that, but the human may not hear that. All right. So moving on. The master said a plane of being is not a place of being, but a state of being. Let me repeat. The masters or the ancestors said a plane of being is not a place of being, but a state of being. So as we just said, heaven and hell is a state of being. OK. They taught that the kingdom of heaven is not a material plane in space, but a state of man's consciousness. Let me repeat that. They taught that the kingdom of heaven is not a material plane in space, but a state of man's consciousness. So let me ask you this. A lot of us say that, well, when I die, I want to go to heaven. Well, what we don't realize is that whatever conscious vibratory frequency that you are on in your living state, that will continue to exist when you shed your physical or material body. So that means whatever state of conscience your mentality was at in your waking life, that's where you're going to be in your sleeping life. So if you're already in a state of happiness now, then when you pass on, that's going to be the state you in. And if you are in a state of, let's say, sadness now, then that's going to be the state that you in when you leave. So there is no, this concept or this certain idea that you can achieve or, fail to achieve certain things on this earth, and you'll either be rewarded or punished for it. That is all left up to your own particular conscience and your own being, your own internal being. That is your own judge. So your consciousness is your judge. In a little while, I'm going to make a tape dealing with Saturn and Jupiter rather. But, in other words, your consciousness is going to give you what you deserve. Okay. Whatever you vibrating on is what you're going to get. It's no different than you go to a job. If you work at a job and let's say they say you get paid, $7 an hour and you work 3 hours, then you're going to get $21. So you can't go and work, 1 hour and expect to get the output of 3 hours of work. It don't go that way. So the state of consciousness known as heaven and the state of consciousness known as hell, it works the same way. However you've been living your life, whatever you have been entertaining in your mind and in your heart, whatever you have recorded in your memory and stuff like that, whatever you have really allowed to impact your soul via your personality, that's going to result and determine where you go. All right. So we don't all go to the same place. That's another thing. Like there is no heaven where everybody just going to go and meet up like that. That don't go down like that. OK, you only going to meet with people that's on the same vibrational frequency as you. All right. Just recently, I had an astrological chart done and it was telling me that I'm at a place in my life now where I have a certain urge to only want to be around people that's on the same frequency that I'm on. And it was also saying how a lot of people from my past, whether they were family or friends, how am I going to be able to hang around a lot of these people no more? It is very, very true. Like these people they're not even appealing to me anymore. And they really didn't do anything wrong, but they're just not appealing to me. That's why they don't hear me call them. That's why I don't talk to them. I don't text them. It's just I done kind of like left that plane of existence that they were once on. You see what I'm saying? That's what has happened. I've literally started vibrating at such of a higher frequency that they don't really appeal to me anymore. So you're going to have that. Sometimes in your life, you may find yourself not wanting to be around certain people. You may be in certain relationships. You don't want to be in them no more. You may be in a certain type of job. You don't want to be at that job no more. A lot of that is just the consequence of you starting to vibrate at a higher or lower frequency. So that's the same with a lot of you men out here. Like you brothers get to a certain point where, you dealing with the women and you may be just kind of like dealing with them for the sex. You know what I'm saying? But there will get to a certain point where you still going to want the sex from a woman, but you're going to want it to be from a woman of a higher frequency. OK, so that's kind of how a man matures. A man is going to always want the sex. He's going to always want the head. He's going to always want the ass. But what's going to change is the type of woman he wants it from. When he's younger, he really don't care where it comes from. You know what I'm saying? Long as it's a female and she's somewhat, I guess, look decent to him. But as the guy gets older, he starts to vibrate at such a higher frequency. His wants will change with that. All right. So continuing on. So the first thing to wrap that up, it says that the ancestors taught that the kingdom of heaven is not a material plane in space, but a state of man's consciousness. Because Blackbeard is in heaven already right now, believe it or not. And even my physical world is starting to reflect that. It took a lot of concentration. It took a lot of meditation and it took a lot of patience. But nevertheless, it is starting to materialize. It's like putting a seed in the ground. It's going to take a while for that seed to grow. But you will start to see the proof of your hard work and your labor paying off. In the ceremonies of the ancient mysteries, eternal life was actually demonstrated to the neophyte by a secret ritual that has remained unknown to the profane until this day. It was never revealed by the initiates. So we're going to go into a process or a certain ceremony or ancient ritual that you would go through in order to understand that you had an eternal aspect to yourself. So that's another thing that the ancestors would do. They would put people through certain rituals, through certain rites and certain ceremonies, not to try to mock the Most High, but to try to get the consciousness to acknowledge and realize something, because that's the way your mind works. We all have that that point of reference where we can remember before and after. Like if you had a certain event, like if you had a child, let's say at a certain age, you're going to remember your life before that, and you're going to remember your life after that, because it's a distinct benchmark in your life, or a distinct checkpoint. So, the rituals or the ceremonies, they kind of do the same thing. They kind of put you, something has to happen to you to put your consciousness in a state of mind to where you can remember before and after. So you can remember the old vibrational pattern, and then you can, live into the new vibrational pattern. All right. By a secret process known only to the masters, the neophyte was put into a deep hypnotic sleep, and it lasted 3 days. Let me repeat that, because you all gonna get a little deeper into the Capricorn mysteries and the winter solstice mysteries and who Yeshua, who Heru really is, because I just explained it. But I'll reread it again. By a secret process known only to the masters, the neophyte was put into a deep hypnotic sleep, and it lasted 3 days. Then his unconscious body was exposed to the rays of rising sun in the ceremony that restored him to physical consciousness. Now, all of us know about the sun and how the sun actually is what we really are. As I said in the previous tape, we are just a material version of the sun. You know what I'm saying? We're just living matter that is infused by solar consciousness. That's really all we are. So when we'd hear about the winter solstice, and also how it's Friday the 13th, and I told you all about the season of Jason from July, June, August, September, October, and November. Well, as the sun starts descending deeper into the year, as we start getting deeper towards, October, November, December, we all know that the temperature starts to get much colder. Okay. And the reason why is because the sun is going deeper and deeper into the tomb, or going deeper and deeper into a hypnotic sleep. Okay. Think about how during the dates of December 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, how the sun is in a certain stage. And then when the whole Christ ritual comes in during Christmas, how the sun starts rising out of the tomb. So that also represents your consciousness going to sleep for a certain period of time. And that's what a certain ritual is. So when you all hear about the skull and bones, for example, and, although they have a lot of homoerotic stuff they into, but just a Hiram Abiff ritual where they have you in the tomb and they may bury you alive for either a certain amount of hours and maybe even days, who knows? And then you rise out of the tomb. I'll give you another example. In a movie called The Game with Michael Douglas, came out in the 90s, there was a scene towards about the end where he ended up in a situation and he got knocked unconscious and went to sleep. And then a few scenes passed by, and then when he started to wake up, he realized that he was in this wooden coffin. He was kicking this box to try to get out. And as he kicked the box open, he realized that he was in Mexico somewhere, buried in a grave. And he basically was wearing all white. He had on a white coat, some white pants, and a white shirt. He was wearing all white, and he rose out of the tomb. And then shortly after that, the movie ended, and then he reached, his full level of heaven consciousness, because that whole movie is about going from dull consciousness to Christ consciousness. So when he was put in that tomb, by the, the people that was fucking with him, that was them trying to show him that ritual. So that's what you have. A lot of our ancestors dealt with a lot of dark occultism. When you all see the skull and bones, when you hear about the Day of the Dead, when you hear about the rituals of Samhain, when you hear about the rituals of Halloween, all that is dealing with the sun getting ready to go into wintertime. And the sun being stung by the sting of Scorpio, because remember, Scorpio is during November and it's getting colder. So the sun is starting to die. That's why in the Egyptian mythology, Heru is stung by a scorpion. If you don't believe me, go look up the Egyptian mythology when Heru is stung by a scorpion. That's representing the sun in the zodiac house of Scorpio getting ready to go deeper into the winter solstice, basically getting ready to die and be reborn. All right. So that's why the ancestors had that ritual of putting you in a deep hypnotic state of sleep for 3 days. And then it says his unconscious body was then exposed to the rays of the rising sun. So you have two suns. You have, once again, the daytime sun and you have the nighttime sun. You have the conscious sun and you have the unconscious sun. So you have also a sun that rules over the realm of sleep, or the realm of the subconscious, or the realm of the underworld. There is a black sun, and it emits the same type of solar heat as the yellow sun that you see out during the daytime. So just like your brain has the hormones serotonin and melatonin, how melatonin gets, released at nighttime, how serotonin is released, and regulated during the daytime. You have a nighttime sun and you have, a daytime sun. So that's why it says being exposed to the rays of the rising sun. This ceremony was termed the last resurrection. When the neophyte was, quote, raised from the dead and his physical consciousness returned, he knew that he had eternal life. He knew that man is a dual being of both temporal and eternal worlds. For during the days of his physical unconsciousness, he was in the realm of spiritual consciousness and actually saw the kingdom of God. So when you go into different states of meditation, or if you go into a state of being unconscious, this is where you start to experience what's known as spiritual consciousness. If you all have ever been in a dream and you were awake in your dream, you've experienced this, what I'm talking about. You've experienced the rays of the nighttime sun or the rays of the dream world sun. As I've told y'all before, I've gotten into so many dreams, and the dreams have gotten so deep to where I could literally feel certain sensations, or in other words, my senses were activated to a certain degree in whatever kind of astral body I was using in my dream state. Okay. So, for example, when you have a lot of people who may, urinate on themselves in sleep, sometimes this could be, of course, a little child who isn't potty trained yet. But sometimes adults can experience this because sometimes you can be so deep in the dream state that you won't be able to discern if you are awake or if you are asleep. And one thing that we do subconsciously in the dream world to help us to see if we are in a sleep world or if we're in a waking world is sometimes we will go and try to urinate in the dream. Now, when you do this subconsciously, if I go and urinate in the dream and I don't feel, literal urine coming out on my physical body, then that's going to probably let the conscious know you still in the dream. But if you go and urinate in the dream and then you feel yourself, urinating in real life, you might, snap out of it and wake up. So some of us may have experienced that before. All right. So when it says also that when you come from the dead, you realize that that your state of being is dual. So as we said, man is an eternal being. We really are only in these physical bodies, and these bodies are just acting as personalities, just material personalities that we use to experience certain things here. Okay. That's what it is. So you have a dual consciousness. All right. That's why when you start daydreaming, your brain waves, you go into different vibrational brain frequencies. All right. These are all different states of being. And also, too, you have different elementals and different beings that live on whatever plane that you may visit. So you have certain creatures and beings and living forces and living organisms on the third dimension, the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension, the sixth dimension, and the seventh dimension. So, human beings are not the only living organisms. And even the animals you see on the physical world of Malkuth, they're not the only living organisms. The only reason we don't see the other ones is because they live on different planes of existence. Okay, or we have to go to a different state of being to realize them. That's why when you all have dreams, sometimes you see weird looking stuff. You may see a pig flying. You know what I'm saying? You may see a cat talking, or you may see a dog working at a store. And the reason why is because in the dream world or in these other realms of existence, what you all know of as the regular laws of science or the laws of physics, that stuff don't exist there. So there's no telling what you may come across. It's the realm of the impossible. Okay. not impossible, but the realm of the possible, excuse me. Everything is possible outside of the third dimension. See, the third dimension only allows certain things to happen here. Okay. So the third dimension actually is the lower frequency. And that's why I said a little bit earlier that that the material world is the lowest frequency, or Malkuth is the lowest frequency. Okay. So as it says that that matter is the lowest degree of vibration. So even matter itself, it vibrates. You know what I'm saying? Those skulls you all see in front of you, they vibrating right now. That number 8 ball you see in front of you is vibrating right now, believe it or not. Okay? It's vibrating. So those are the different hermetic laws when they say that one of them is the law of vibration, the law of polarity, the law of gender. That law of vibration is very, very important, all right? So going deeper. It was to prepare the neophyte for this mystic ordeal that he was required to pass through the rigid preparatory training. If he failed, he was rejected as unworthy of the great blessings of this initiatory ceremonies. So that's another thing. See, a lot of people never really got to be introduced to these mysteries. And some of us have been going through these mysteries over and over in each lifetime because we have been advanced adepts for multiple lifetimes. And that's why some people have a hard time understanding this, because they've never been initiated into it. You know, for example, some people in this lifetime, this may be the first time they're hearing about some of this stuff. You see, but then you have some other people who already were in it in a previous lifetime, and something in this lifetime is going to actually represent that. So I'll use myself for an example. Most people, they only hear about consciousness. You know what I'm saying? This Aboriginal information, the Egyptian mystery system, the Kabbalah. You know what I'm saying? The occult, the esoteric. A lot of you all probably heard that stuff when you got much older. You probably heard it when you became either teenagers or in your 20s, when you either graduated high school or college and you could start studying and reading things that you were interested in. Or maybe you got on YouTube or the internet and you heard about some other brothers and sisters that was putting out information, quote unquote conscious information. But then you have some of us who were born into this, and our parents were already on this stuff. So this is all we know. Like I can use myself for an example. Like all I really know is this stuff. See, when I remember as being a little kid, when me and my little brother were playing with toys and stuff over my father's house, and I would be in his room, and right above his bed, he had the weighing of the heart ceremony. He had a whole hieroglyphic right over his bed, dealing with a Tsar sitting on the throne, with the scales of my eye being weighed and the heart and the feather. Like I saw that in my father's room all the time growing up. I just never knew what it was. Okay. So I remember seeing a lot of different Egyptian pictures and just different, these things. They were already around in my life. My mother was already an advanced psychologist. So, understanding the subconscious mind. I was always reading those types of books growing up. So the reason why I was born into that is because that's the frequency I left off of in my previous lifetime. So I'm just here continuing work. The Midnight Mirage is nothing new. I've been doing this shit since Atlantis or Lemuria. You know what I'm saying? I've probably been doing this same shit over 480,000 years. Okay. So some of us are neophytes and some of us are masters at this shit. But also remember that once you become the master, then you become the neophyte of the next plane that you're going to. So although I may understand a lot of this stuff, but consciousness is eternal, okay? Trying to understand the Most High is eternal. Trying to understand pure spirit is eternal. You'll never really get it. So I may be the master of basic knowledge, but I'm the neophyte, of the advanced mysteries of the Most High. Because that's where I am now. I'm not really dealing with the realm of physics, the realm of mathematics, like that basic kind of computational abstract, stuff that humans create. Like I'm a little beyond that. I'm a little more into what's known as the metaphysical, the esoteric, or the occult mysteries. Because you do have what's known as occult science or occult mathematics or occult physics, okay, or occult chemistry or occult psychology or occult sociology, esoteric, physics, esoteric geometry, okay, esoteric trigonometry. So when we start dealing with the mysteries of the Most High, what we really are talking about is dealing with the mysteries of the etheric that we can't see, dealing with the mysteries of the subatomic worlds that we can't see. Okay? In other words, going beyond the veil of the veil of what can be perceived. All right? So listen up. Students of the ancient mysteries know that the raising of Lazarus by the gospel Yeshua is an allegory which refers to this ritual. So in the ancient mystery school, when we read about Lazarus being raised from the dead by Yeshua, this is an allegory of the last resurrection, because we know about Lazarus being raised from the dead, and we know about Yeshua being raised from the dead. When Yeshua was lying in the tomb, and he raised 3 days later. Remember what he told the Pharisees after they said that they was going to try to strike him down, that he'll have a new temple in 3 days. That's showing you all the winter solstice ritual, the Yeshua ritual, December 21st, 22nd, 23rd. That's what that is. That's what that is, people. As explained in our course titled Immortalism, every man at the moment of his demise realizes his duality. For a certain period, a few moments to a few minutes, his physical consciousness remains functional, fading out slowly, while his spiritual consciousness is increasing. So that's another thing. A lot of us hear about when people are on their deathbed, you have a lot of different hormones and different secretions that come out of the brain, known as DMT and other kind of melanin or melatonin, serotonin type of influences, adrenaline type of liquids or fluids. And a lot of this stuff, what it is doing is it's trying to allow and help your physical body and your physical consciousness have a peaceful transition into spiritual consciousness. Okay. And you will realize that duality that you have when you on your lying, like as you physically are dying, you will start to feel your consciousness shifting into something totally different. Because I'm pretty sure when you getting ready to die, it's not like when you've been getting ready to go to sleep. Of course, I've never died in this body, so I don't know how it is. But it probably is a type of phenomenon where you do know that this is the last time I'm going to be in this state of physical consciousness. Versus when you go to sleep, a lot of times we may just fall asleep, but subconsciously we still know that we're going to wake up, some of us. But when you transition from waking consciousness into sleep or spiritual consciousness, you're going to realize that you have a dual self, and your spiritual consciousness is eternal. It's always going on. It doesn't sleep. Okay. Your brain's consciousness go to sleep because your physical body has to go to sleep. Okay. During the time it takes the physical consciousness to fade out entirely, man knows that he is a dual being. At that moment, he can see the material world from his spiritual state. The material world disappears as the material consciousness fades out entirely. So as I said, man, as he's transitioning from the physical into the spiritual where he came from, he's going to start to see the material world separate from the physical, from the spiritual world. And see, right now, we can't really perceive that. All we can see is the physical. Now, yeah, we may go into a certain state of conscious meditation. Some of us, may go into certain hypnotic states of consciousness. And some of us may use certain supplements to put us in different forms of conscience. But nevertheless, we still can't really perceive our other mind like that. We can't. The only way you're gonna really be able to perceive that is if your conscious mind is being distracted by something. So when they talk about, being under certain type of lucid, I don't like using this term. I hate using this term, but y'all know what I mean. Using certain type of quote unquote lucid drugs. This will put your consciousness into a different state of being. So when people deal with the marijuana, and some people have maybe dealt with the LSD before, but nevertheless, that's what that stuff does. It's going to put you in a totally different state of conscience. Okay. So this is why some of the ancestors, believe it or not, they use the marijuana. And this is why they don't want you Aboriginal folks smoking the marijuana, because they knew what your ancestors used it for. All your shamanistic practices and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? All your Aboriginal American ancestors. What y'all think they were smoking out those pipes? When those Europeans got off those boats and they saw us with those pipes, You don't think they smelt the fucking loud or smelt the gas in the air? And they nose hairs was standing up and they was wondering what the fuck is that smell? Because they didn't know what that stuff was. That shit was all over here. So it's a reason why your ancestors were smoking that. Also in East India right now, they have an ancient sector of, a spiritual group, and they still deal with the energies of Kali. And they deal with the energies of Shiva, believe it or not. And they do a lot of the things that people may consider perverse in society. Okay? They practice cannibalism. And another thing they do is they smoke the marijuana. And you will see sometimes in India, if you look at National Geographic and stuff, they'll have little episodes where they show you these different people in East India, where they literally sit around on the corners and just smoke out of bongs all day and be meditating and chanting. This is part of where that came from. So this is why they got you niggas on the GMO weed. This is why they put in pine sol in y'all weed. This is why they got down growing all the weed and making all these crazy ass flavors and all that shit. Because they want you away from how you originally used to use the shit. Okay? If you read about some of the different Hebrew high priests, they was using the marijuana, believe it or not. So when the brothers that deal with the Ethiopian Rastafarian information, okay, the house of Judah, okay, so that Ethiopic line of Israel, and you see the Rasta brothers with the marijuana and all that, that's that tie right there. So the Hebrews, the Rastas, and the marijuana, that's that tie right there to the indigenous American and the person from so-called East India. Because the gods of East India, they say they come from Mount Meru. But they call you all the people of Mount Meru. Meru, America. Okay, so you're starting to see the connection. So moving on. Clear light contains all the colors of the rainbow. It is invisible to our eye because of its rapid vibration. When any obstruction retards the vibratory rate, the eye can see the slower vibrations and they appear as colors. The difference in colors is the difference in planes of vibration. The difference between the material plane and the astral is the difference in vibratory rate. So the only thing that's differentiating between the material world and the astral world is vibration. I'll give you another example. My brother is he's a master at filmmaking, editing, producing the film. I mean, anything you can think of. And one thing I can remember him telling me is he used what's called a green screen and a blue screen. And I can remember him telling me that the human being's eye sees the color green the most. Okay, so just think about next time you leave your home and think about the color that you see the most when you leave your home. It's going to be the color green. And not necessarily just because of the grass and the trees, and that is majority of, what we see. But kind of think about that. Why is the color of the trees and the grass green? And then factoring in how in the movies, they use what's known as a green screen, and they will project a certain image on the green screen, and that's how we may see the movie. So when we see movies like Godzilla or King Kong, you got to remember a lot of that is CGI and green screen effects. So ask yourself, why would the Hollywood producers want to use a green screen? What do they know about the color green that is very, very close to the human being? Why is the color green associated with the heart chakra? Okay. So the color green is very, very powerful and potent to us. That's why you see pictures of Asar or so-called Osiris, and a lot of the times he's green. So Aboriginal indigenous people, although we may have a copper colored, bronze colored complexion or a brown complexion, you got to remember that chlorophyll or the color green and the color brown, they really ain't too far off from each other. Okay. They really ain't too far off. So the color brown and the color green shows something that's natural and from the earth. Okay. So moving on. The astral plane is the fourth dimensional quality that lies relative to the material plane. So the fourth dimension is the astral world. It is the plane of divine creation in which the divine expresses all the potential and uncreated qualities of the Godhead, and from which the material world receives all things that appear on the visible plane. In the astral plane is located the essence of the divine city, the New Jerusalem, It is not up nor out, but occupies the same space as the material world, being separated from it by its vibratory octave and quality and kind of manifestation of the divine attributes that are inherent in this plane. So, to wrap it up, the astral world or the etheric world, known as Yesod, represents the etheric mode of what you see physically. So let me give you another example. A lot of the brothers out there, they go get grills and stuff like that. All my hood niggas out there. When a brother go get a grill, what he gonna do is they gonna get the little mold and they gonna put it in his teeth to get the mold of his teeth. And then they gonna use the mold of his teeth to make a physical grill out of. Well, that's the same process that the etheric world is, or Yesod. It is just the mold that is used to put something material around it or to let matter grow within it. Okay, that's how that works. That's why during the sexual act, you know what I'm saying, the sexual act is referred to as the ninth sphere or Yesod, okay, the etheric. So that's just some little information to go through dealing with the etheric, dealing with planes of existence, planes of consciousness. I hope y'all got something from this. Y'all shout me out in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Stay tuned for the next one. It's the boy Blackbeard. I'm out.